Right now, the National Weather Desk, the Atlantic hurricane season is here. Our team of meteorologists is here to get you ready and prepared. We'll look at the factors driving this year's storms.
Unfortunately, we don't think we're going to have El Nino this summer and fall.
You'll learn about the rating system.
We go to the Category 5 hurricane.
And the impact of rising ocean temperatures.
Warm water means more warm air, more moisture, and stronger storms.
You'll meet a hurricane hunter and storm chaser who goes into the hurricane when everyone else gets out the way.
We're in trouble. We're in bad trouble.
I get that.
And see the new technology helping make homes hurricane resistant.
The end result is totally unique.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. The Atlantic hurricane season officially began yesterday, so today's show is focused on all things hurricanes. And we start with the outlooks for the season. Colorado State University is forecasting a slightly above average season with 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. Those numbers fall within NOAA's forecast range. We asked a Colorado State meteorologist to explain the factors that led to their outlook.
We don't anticipate El Nino this summer and fall. El Nino is warmer than normal water in the central and eastern tropical Pacific. Why that matters in the Atlantic is because of how it changes basically the atmospheric circulation. You tend to get stronger winds that blow out of the west, high up in the atmosphere, that tear apart hurricanes as they're trying to develop and intensify in El Nino. Unfortunately, we don't think we're going to have El Nino this summer and fall from a hurricane perspective. The Atlantic also, thankfully, not as warm as it was last year at this time, but it's still running somewhat warmer than normal. Warmer Atlantic basically provides more fuel for storms and just makes the environment more conducive for their formation. We also will look at various wind patterns, pressure patterns. Right now we have very weak La Nina that's likely transitioning over to neutral conditions, which means neither El Nino nor La Nina, but it's still pretty uncertain. There is still a chance we could go to El Nino this summer and fall, although we think it's fairly low. It's an informational tool. We stress it's not a preparedness tool. You need to be prepared the same for every hurricane season. But in a way, it's pretty amazing to think about that we have any skill at being able to forecast effectively weather events several months in advance. So, typically, for example, last year in early April, we said we're very confident it's going to be a very busy season. It was a very kind of unusual season in how it played out, but it was very busy. And to be able to have that information a few months out, I think is pretty impressive.
The National Hurricane Center made some changes to the way it warns us about storms. Pensacola meteorologist Alan Strum shows us what's new this year.
Here's an update to some of the products that you'll be seeing for the 2025 hurricane season. One is a change with the size of the cone. I've got a comparison here from 20 years. So we've got 2004 with Hurricane Ivan, and then this potential tropical cyclone that ended up becoming Helene developed last year. Now, from 2024 to 2025, the cone should be about 3 to 5% smaller, and you can see that difference over 20 years. With better technology, we have a better idea of where the storms are headed and can show you a narrower cone. Another thing, too, is, of course, these tropical weather makers have huge impacts on the inland areas. It's not just along the coast. So we'll be seeing those watches, warnings, and alerts spreading well inland on the forecast advisory that has the cone, the map with the cone, and that's an example of it right there. So we'll be looking out for that in the 2025 season. One other thing, too, rip currents, a big danger when we have tropical cyclones, whether they're hurricanes, named storms. And now with active tropical systems or weather makers, we will see a rip current risk map.
Hurricanes are rated 1 to 5 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Meteorologist John Gum explains that system and how it can tell you how destructive a storm might be.
It ranks hurricanes on a scale of 1 to 5. Now, the weakest hurricane that still can produce a lot of damage and a lot of problems is a Category 1 hurricane. Category 1 hurricane has winds starting at 74 miles per hour. And this type of hurricane, the weaker hurricanes, can certainly produce scattered damage. It can give us problems with some storm surge, flooding, heavy rainfall, even isolated tornadoes. Now, as we ramp up to a Category 2 hurricane, that's when the winds start to get stronger. 96 miles per hour is the threshold for that one. And those winds, they're really dangerous. And that's when we begin to see moderate damage occurring. As we ramp up higher to the major hurricane level, which starts at Category 3, that is when things start to get extremely dangerous. We have major hurricane force winds now that occur. And you get not just scattered damage, you get extensive damage that begins to occur as those winds climb high, 111 to 129 miles per hour. This is a major hurricane. But as we ramp it up, the damage gets worse. A Category 4 hurricane now has wind speeds of 130 miles an hour to 156 miles per hour. A Category 4 hurricane causes catastrophic damage, not just from the winds, but from the storm surge, that big wall of water that gets pushed inland. And as we ramp it up even higher, we go to the Category 5 hurricane. Catastrophic damage with the Category 5, extreme winds, 157 plus miles per hour with the Category 5 storm, and that's not going to leave much standing. Structures, they fail, and the storm surge that comes with it too can totally destroy buildings near the coast. Category 5 storms we certainly don't want to see.
While the shape of a hurricane is basically round, each area of the storm is slightly different from the others. Meteorologist Taylor Knos dissects the anatomy of a hurricane.
No two hurricanes are exactly alike, but they all have the same basic structure and characteristics. You've likely heard of the eye of the hurricane. This relatively calm and clear center of the storm usually stretches 20 to 40 miles and offers a brief reprieve from the ferocious winds found in the eye wall. This wall of thunderstorms surrounding the eye contains the strongest winds of the hurricane. A hurricane's spiral rain bands can extend hundreds of miles away from the eye, but can still develop strong wind gusts and occasionally tornadoes. Hurricanes can be broken down into 4 quadrants relative to the storm's direction. The right front quadrant is typically the strongest part of the hurricane, where winds blow in the same direction that the hurricane is moving. This is where you'll find the highest storm surge and the best environment for tornadoes. The right rear quadrant is not quite as intense, but still poses a threat for strong winds, tornadoes, storm surge, and flooding. The left rear quadrant is considered the weakest part of a hurricane, but still poses a threat for dangerous gusts and flooding. Finally, the left front quadrant contains strong wind gusts blowing offshore, which typically limits the threat for storm surge.
We know that hurricanes are, generally speaking, stronger than they were a generation ago. One reason is that ocean temperatures are warming. Meteorologist Marshall McPeak explains the connection between warmer water and stronger storms.
Sea surface temperatures are critical because tropical cyclones use that warm water as fuel. Warmer water evaporates a little easier. It creates huge swaths of extra humid air, and that moist air is less dense, so it rises with less forcing. Now, that water gets high enough, it eventually becomes clouds. The water vapor cools and condenses, but that also releases heat into the core of the storm. So, put very simply, more warm water means more warm air, more moisture, and stronger storms.
Hurricane names are not a random collection. The World Meteorological Organization uses a rotation of names that annually retires those tied to the deadliest and most destructive storms. Meteorologist David Boyd has more.
There are 6 lists of tropical cyclone names in the Atlantic, and the list that was used last year will be used again in 2030, but 3 storms have been replaced. Beryl replaced by Brianna, Helene replaced by Holly, and Milton replaced by Miguel. The list for this year has 1 new name, that's the D name of Dexter that was replaced back in 2019. Out of all of the 126 original names, 72 are still being used from the list in 1979. So all those in yellow are the replacements of retired storms. Looking at the list for this season, the first tropical storm will be Andrea.
Our deep dive into the hurricane season is now available to stream on YouTube. You can find Superstorms by visiting our YouTube channel or searching for Superstorms 2025. And coming up on this special hurricane edition of the National Weather Desk, a storm chaser and hurricane hunter describes what it's like to drive and fly into the eye of the storm.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Wind is not responsible for most hurricane-related deaths. Water is the deadliest element, either by flooding, like Hurricane Helene, or storm surge along the coast. Meteorologist Brian Vandegraff helps us better understand why that surge is so dangerous.
You have your normal sea level, and then you get these larger waves, particularly when that wind is pushing on that seawater and pushing it more inland. Let's give you a little perspective here. So let's talk about, first off, you get a storm surge of about 3 feet. It's starting to come upward on land. You see it coming in a little bit more. As it comes in a little bit more, it's going to bring some water, maybe in the base level of your house. At that point, you could get some inundation. It's the very beginning, and you get to higher ground, maybe go up to a second level. Get to 6 feet. Look at this, 6 feet of extra water. Do you see all that? Now we're talking about the height of your door jamb, the height of your first level. At this point, if you had an inundation this high, you'd be going to your second level. And let's talk 10 plus or more. 12 feet, you could be talking about in your attic space or going to your rooftop where you need to be rescued from the top of your home because the home will be underwater 12 feet. That could really submerge a house and lead to devastating consequences. Why it's so important for you to pay attention, and when that storm surge is forecast to be on the higher side, to take that just as seriously as you would any other threat within a hurricane.
Most people try to get out of a hurricane's path, but storm chasers and hurricane hunters do not. They drive or fly into the eye, each for different reasons. In a moment, you'll meet our storm chaser, Brett Adair, but first, here's Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Rickard, hurricane hunter with the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron.
It means we're flying right through thunderstorms, we're intersecting it, so the ride can be a lot more turbulent, a lot more crazy. We can get struck by lightning. We can experience extreme turbulence as we're going through Category 5 eye walls of hurricanes. We start turning, and you don't want to get caught on an updraft on one of your sides of your airplane because then you're just going to get flipped. Got a good sound. If it starts getting really turbulent, we basically know where we're going. We're going to the eye, and we get into the eye. Then we start maneuvering to find that center fix of the storm. There are some that are definitely gnarly situations. Shall I say, there's been a couple times where I've been on flights where we've kind of got caught in an eye wall where we couldn't get out of it. You don't want too much ground speed. You don't want too much speed. You don't want to be too slow because then you can stall. Hurricane Irma, I flew on that storm as it basically peaked and flew over, I think it was St. Martin, and saw, actually, we could tell from the air at 10,000 feet, like the entire runway was the beach. Like the water and the beach was totally over that runway, and wow, like Cat 5 just wiped this island out. So just being a part of some of those missions, knowing that it's making a significant impact for the people on the ground and the Hurricane Center to issue their warnings, definitely very impacting to us in the airplane.
You've got to be prepared a whole lot more now. It's been a case where we've had really strong storms, especially in the Gulf and the southeast region, that have, been hammered time and time again. So being prepared and getting there early is very important. Storm chasing in general has changed due to technology. It's a lot more widespread now. You've got cellular service pretty much virtually anywhere, and that's very important when it comes to being able to communicate and relay information such as video. And that's going to be one of the things that continues to grow and expand with time. Watching over the last 5 or 6 years, they just continue to intensify. There's not a weakening trend. It's an intensification trend as they push toward the coast, and that's very alarming for us.
Here comes the surge. We're gonna have to go back.
Hurricane Michael was crazy for us.
We're in trouble. We're in bad trouble.
I get that.
Michael was a reality check because it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, you better have multiple plans of action when, proverbial issues occur.
I'm not really sure how we're going to do it.
And luckily, we were able to find shelter, and that saved our lives.
These condos are coming apart.
You see something different on every chase.
A lot of flooding.
We plan, we prepare, we have teams, we have people that are also on the ground just outside of the disaster zone. You have to be on guard for anything. Be prepared for everything. And last but not least, when it's time to evacuate, take those orders seriously and get out.
Strong winds can damage or destroy a house, but now some companies are building innovative storm-resistant homes designed to stand up to a hurricane's power. Last year, meteorologist Emily Gracie got a rare tour of one such home in South Carolina.
Like many Charleston natives, Jimmy and Darlene Rawls remember Hurricane Hugo like it was yesterday.
In 1989, Darlene, my wife, and I lived on Sullivan's Island, which was right where the eye went across.
The Category 4 hurricane caused massive damage along South Carolina's coastline. The impacts were felt for months.
Not having clean water to take a shower, not having water to drink, not having power, not having air conditioning or refrigeration, that's a big deal. Just being here, watching different structures, being through, the small Category 1s that have come through, taught us a lot of lessons.
35 years later, they've applied those lessons to create a home not only built to withstand the next major hurricane, but to provide comfort in the aftermath. Cusabo Island, a short boat ride from the mainland and completely off the grid, is where Jimmy and Darlene have built their hurricane-resilient home.
It's 1.25 miles long and about 50 acres of highland. The only way you get here is by boat.
The 1,000-square-foot Deltec round home is powered by solar panels.
So all the power from the roof comes down and into the inverter, then into the batteries.
How do you get running water out here?
That's a whole different story. It's all rainwater. It's purified rainwater.
Deltec's coastal homes are all made in a warehouse in Asheville, North Carolina.
Dealing with the angles and things takes experience and patience that you don't need with a square house. But the end result is totally unique.
Unique indeed. But why round?
So it's reducing the pressure on the home, so less force is going onto the home during a high wind event. And it's also really good at distributing the load throughout the home. So there's not one area where it's like really high impact and areas for failure.
In addition to shape, they also focus on materials and connections.
Lumber that is twice as strong as your conventional construction. And our hardware that we're using is typically twice as strong as your typical tie that you would find holding a roof to a wall in a normal place. We're using a 2-leg strap that goes over the truss and nails into this high-strength lumber. So we like to overkill things a lot, and it's it's by design. We want to make sure that these houses last generations.
Jimmy and Darlene have zero regrets.
The joy that we get from it has been better than we expected.
Do you think next time there's a hurricane here in Charleston, you're gonna flee to your home out here on this island?
If it's a bad enough storm, this is a bad place to be. But I'll take my boat and I'll come back here and have a nice, hopefully, shower and refrigeration and all that while I'm cleaning up, while everybody else over there doesn't have power.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Our podcast, Off the Radar, also takes a closer look at hurricane season. Meteorologist Emily Gracie has a preview.
The 2025 Atlantic hurricane season is here. Forecasting technology has never been more precise.
The forecasters now are making forecasts that, us old timers are like, wow.
Today I'm going off the radar with Jamie Rome, Deputy Director of the National Hurricane Center. We'll uncover the latest research that's revealing a disturbing truth about post-storm mortality.
Hurricanes are killing more people than we ever knew.
You'll hear about the lesser-known fieldwork the agency conducts in storm-ravaged communities.
To really understand a disaster, you have to be boots on the ground, understanding what it did to the community.
Jamie will share what's brewing for the 2025 season and some surprising new stats.
I bet you didn't know this. This is going to be the shock of the podcast.
And most importantly, how you can keep yourself, your family, and your home safe when the next storm strikes.
This episode of our award-winning podcast is available right now. Just search for Off the Radar anywhere you listen to your podcasts. We'll be right back.